All right. How's it going, everybody? I know there's about a minute left in the countdown, but whatever. We can go ahead and start because I control the controls. We can start whenever we're ready. So, how's it going this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are? For me, it's about mid afternoon. It's actually early afternoon. It's a 12:20 here. Haven't watched any of the football game though. I did though. For those of you that follow the NFL, it looks like good old Tampa Bay has scored. So if you're a hater of Tom Brady, it sucks. If you're a fan of Tom Brady, it's great. I'll let y'all decide what that news means. All right. So let me bring this music down a little bit. So for those of you that follow my other stuff, we did do a similar stream yesterday over on Twitch, and we talked about all types of stuff. Different decks I've already put up, stuff that could be done, different cards, where things could and couldn't be used potentially. I see that Hoodrat's here. I'm gonna tell you, Hoodrat, I stayed up way too late putting up content for y'all, putting other content together y'all haven't seen yet, and then tried to rush to make sure this happened so people on YouTube had an opportunity. So, no dominating the chat, no stuff like yesterday. If people get a line, I will be removing people from the chat today. Not in the mood, y'all. Not in the mood. Um, Plus, some other stuff happened over on Twitch off of my stream, not mine, which actually kind of put me in a little foul mood yesterday. But that's okay. That's not your fault. We're here to have a good time, talk about Kaldheim. So, for those of you who don't know, if you're here, you obviously follow my YouTube channel. We have a ton of decks up. I think we're already at like 10 or 11, and there's more coming. I have another one just went live, actually. If you didn't see it, I have a Jund Death Touch list that just went live. Wait, did that? Yes, it did. I'm so confused. I have so many decks in the queue. This is a crazy time. No, it didn't. That's for tomorrow. Man, I don't know what's happening with my stuff. I have so many decks right now. I have a whole list of them that are still coming. All right. So we have the Snow Zombies deck is it's mislabeled. That's what the problem is. I see what happened. I was so confused by my own stuff. Well, let's fix that. Give me one quick second, y'all. I'm going to correct this because this is definitely an error I want to make sure is correct for y'all. And that makes a lot of sense. All right. Now, this is what happens when you're doing too many things at once. I got to be better about that. Okay, so the deck is correct and the link is correct. The title is wrong, though the thumbnail is right. All right. Well, that should be fixed. Let's fix that. So yeah, bear with me here. Sorry, I know this isn't the most captivating viewing, but I want to make sure everything is right for everyone, so you're able to find what you're looking for. Okay, so that one looks like that is correct. The Jund Gods and Legends looks correct, so that's all good. Which, by the way, that's one I really want to play that one. That looks like a lot of fun. Okay, so I think everything works now. We should be good. All right. I think all the titles are right. Tomorrow I have queued up Abzan mid-range and Jund Death Touch. So sneak peek there if y'all want to know what's coming tomorrow. Do the flip cards from Helmheim for Commander or Brawl get you color identity of the back of the card as well? My understanding, Cody, is that yes, it does. So you can cast both sides. It counts for both sides. That's the way I understand it to be. So if you're gonna play, say, like the new, well, he already has both colors. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say if you're playing the new Tibalt, then the front side's just black, the back side is black red. Then yes. You also have an issue like Jorn, I believe it is, where at the front is a 3/3 green creature, the back is a blue black artifact. So you would have access to all three colors if that's what you choose to do. So that is a thing. That is a thing. That's a good question though. I like that. But yes, it's definitely a thing. Another thing, before we get into all this, I want to say, hey, if you haven't checked them out, check out Ultra Pro. They're one of my sponsors. They do a lot to help me set up giveaways and different things. They're real supporters of my content. I have a link in the description. You can go to shop.ultrapro.com to see all the stuff because they make stuff for Magic, Pokemon, anime, just like all kinds of things if you're looking for stuff. And the cool part about it is if you see something you want, you don't have to order through the site. You can just give the information to your local game store and say, hey, can you order this thing for me from Ultra Pro? And Ultra Pro supports local game stores. So that's a good way to keep their doors open and you get something sweet. So just want to toss that out there. If you want to support me, you don't even have to order directly through their website. Just tell your local game store, hey, I'd like to pick up this thing or this crazy cool deck box or this playmat I saw on Ultra Pro's website. Awesome, right? Okay, so what do y'all want to talk about as far as Kaldheim? Because the thing is, I want to let y'all drive this conversation. This isn't so much for me, this is for you. Because obviously, I'm putting together a ton of decks. I can tell you right now, even with the stuff that went live this morning, which I can clear those out of my thing now, because those are already up for the public. I still have another 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 more decks still that aren't even out yet. I'm gonna try to get some more of those done this evening and tomorrow. But yeah, I've got stuff just boom, 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 boom. So when I tell you I'm putting out decks all the way up till Kaldheim, know that I'm being honest. The other thing too is if you go to the website or go to my channel elsewhere, you can click and go to the playlist that's just called, I believe I have it as MTG Kaldheim Standard, and that'll always be getting updated with the decks as well. So if you want to share that with somebody who's like, hey, I don't know what I want to play in the new set. I hope it changes. I don't know what to build. I don't know how to spin my wild cards. You can just say, hey, check out this playlist. There's going to be like 20 plus decks. You're bound to find something you can play, either with cards you already have that are existing, something that fits your play style, certain colors you want to play. I'm trying to put out a large variety for everybody. Another quick thing I want to mention to people, some people said like, well, why didn't you just put all the decks in one video? Well, that's actually not the most efficient way or the best way to do it, mostly for future purposes. Like, as we get through this coming week and the set gets closer, people are going to be looking for decks, right? They're going to be looking for their favorite types of decks or certain colors or certain styles. The problem is if I put 22 decks or whatever in one video, one, most people aren't going to watch the whole video anyway. But two, if somebody is searching for, say, like today, a mono white aggro deck, there would be no way for them to know that that's what's in that video. It would just be like 20 plus decks from Kaldheim. And that would be, if you happen to just search for generic Kaldheim decks as a term, cool. But if you're searching for aggro decks or white decks or whatever, that'll actually allow that video to come up. So the thing I always tell people is when I do stuff like that, part of it is just for the business purposes, that you have to remember that YouTube is owned by Google, which means that search engine optimization is the best thing you can do for helping yourself on either platform. So if people are even searching on Google for certain things, that also can allow the video to come up that way as well. But if I just make it a generic thing for Kaldheim decks, people may not find the thing they're looking for. So also, the whole reason I put the decks out the way I did a whole round of stuff first that already was based on existing decks that only needed a few cards. So it's easier for people to build and know how to spend some resources right out of the gate. And then just put the crazy decks that involved a lot of new cards in them. Let's see. Other questions that are coming in. Yeah, Sultai is the future once again. Sultai, possibly. Could be kind of cool. You're interested in Party Winota or some version of Party. Get some pieces from the green changeling creatures. Yes and no. The answer is yes. Party does get some stuff, and I do have a party deck scheduled for. Well, I don't know. Let me go check. Oh, is that on Tuesday's pile of things? I believe has a party deck. Not Winota. I believe that one's Abzan. But did they gain anything? Not really. The problem is the changelings don't really fill a gap. Like they technically gain a thing because it does count as all types, but it's not they're not doing much, right? Like if you I will say the smaller one, the mass whatever, the 1/3, like does matter in the sense that if you're playing only creatures in your party deck, then it gives you a way to destroy artifacts and enchantments you wouldn't have otherwise, which is kind of nice. The 2/3, the Realm Walker doesn't really do much because you have to choose a creature type. And since party wants to have a bunch of different creature types, you don't really get to play stuff for free off the top. So other than it just counting for the other types, it doesn't really do much. So the changelings didn't really bring much to party decks. What I like, they will still be playable and you can fit a couple of them in, and I have a few ideas for how that could work. I evidenced by me going to put up a deck on Tuesday. But I will say I still am a believer that I believe Party doesn't really get a boost until some in Strixhaven, but really their payoffs are going to be in the summer set, being D&D, and we've already been told that Party also reappears in that set. So other things that would make them good and have better payoffs and better spells, then that's probably going to be in that set. Because even the deck I'm building, there's only like 2 things that even care about a full party. The reality right now is you're best off just playing a deck with a variety of the creature types and don't worry about hitting max party. You just play it as a good deck, and then if you get it, you just get a bonus. But right now, I think party's just going to be okay, but you're just going to be better off playing some of the other more cohesive tribal strategies, I think. Let's see. In the Snow Zombies list, what do you think about Haunting Voyage plus Gray Merchant as a way to bring back a ton of black creatures and drain your opponent out? Well, I don't know. Let's switch screens and let's talk about some cards. Do, 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 do. Take you through the portal. We're just going to magically go to another page. See, just like that. It's like magic. Well, it is kind of like magic because we're talking about magic. All right, so the card you want to ask about is Haunting Voyage. Let's bring that up for discussion. What do we got here? All right, Haunting Voyage says it's 6 mana sorcery. Choose creature or creature type. Return up to 2 creatures of that type. Not really. Not really. I'm not feeling it. Partly because the Gray Merchant is expensive. Haunting Voyage is expensive. How would we be getting the Gray Merchants into the graveyard? Is it a thing you can do as a backup plan? Sure. I think that's totally reasonable. You're playing a theme deck with zombies, so if you want to toss like one of these in there as a late game card, get a couple things back. But yeah, I don't know. Not something I think I'm looking to do. I think you can make the casting costs too high. And if you get weird draws, which you're stuck with 1 or 2 of these in your early hands, it's going to be like you mulliganed anyway. So not really feeling it so much. It's an idea. I'm not saying it's terrible, but I think you have to build the deck differently. I don't think it necessarily goes in the Snow Zombies deck. It probably fits somewhere else. Like if you're doing just the straight up like mono black devotion kind of thing, this probably fits in that. If you're in the way the deck was built now, it's not necessarily what I want to be doing. But yeah, I think, like I said, if you're going heavy on the devotion, want to get more of those black mana pips or whatever and drain people with the Great Merchant, that is a viable strategy. The deck, I think, just looks completely different. So if you want to do it, answer's yes, try it. Don't necessarily try to squeeze it into the Snow Zombie deck, because I think you're going to break up the synergy in that deck a little too much, and you're going to push the casting cost very high to where you don't want to be. Just for reference, so people don't know. Oh, I spelled that wrong. There you go. So, talking about the Gray Merchant, it is a zombie. You know, you can drain your opponents. So, totally reasonable. But, man, it's a couple of 5 mana things on top of trying to play some of the other stuff that's in there. So, I don't know. Let's see. How viable do I see Kaya and or Nico being in constructed? Well, I can tell you, I have a list tomorrow that has Kaya in it. Kaya. They're going to bring up all the Kayas we're talking about. This one, the Inexorable. So you put the thing is, I think Kaya works well in the list I have coming up tomorrow because it's a mid-range deck. So you actually get to use the +1, which is kind of important because you can give something Ghost Form, and then if it dies, you get a token to replace it. Plus, you get the card back in your hand. And when you have cards that come into play with different abilities and whatnot, that's a cool bonus. The other cool thing is that it's when the card dies or is put into exile. So even if your opponent were to Banishing Light or something else, like you would get the card back, which is pretty sweet, and you still get the 1/1. The only thing is if they bounce it with like a Brazen Borrower. That's like the only way for them to really get around it. The other thing that's cool is that it's not till end of turn. You get a Ghost Form counter, and that's actually pretty cool too. So you can slowly just protect your team, and then if something happens where you even use like a sweeper or something, it's like, cool, well, I get these 1/1s and I get to reuse all these cards. So that's pretty sweet. And then, of course, just her removal ability is actually pretty awesome. So yeah, Kaya, I like a lot. Nico is a bit of a different thing. I think Nico is more specialized. I think you're in a situation where you're going to want to utilize Nico. You have to almost build around Nico. Like, Nico's one of those planeswalkers, kind of like Jace from the previous sets, and um, trying to think of another one of the other ones, like almost like Nissa as well from Zendikar. They're not the card you're playing to win the game until way later. It's really the type of card you're playing as a value card, right? It's just in there. It's almost operating more like an enchantment with a lot of upside than an actual planeswalker. And that's the way you kind of have to think about it. So I think Nico Ayers probably shows up in some type of Zoria's control of some type, but I don't think it's one we're just going to see a whole bunch just being tossed around into a bunch of different decks because I'm playing blue and white, right? You have to have a situation where you can really take advantage of those shards and maybe get an extra activation or two out of Nico, I think. If you're not, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be worth it. Let's see, move down. So hot button, at least with your play group, about those powerful white cards. Is it just me, or does white keep losing more than they? I thought white has several usable cards in this set. I don't have a problem with white at all. White got life gain. You got several angels. You got a couple of removal cards. I think white did fine in this set. I'm not really sure I understand that. I'm not sure why that's a hot button or why that's disputed. I disagree. Duskraven White had. Oh well, somebody else saying the same thing. White got a lot of good cards in set. Okay, there you go. The Haunting Voyage is sweet commander card though. Oh, I agree with that. Totally, Cody. I think there's a lot of cards you're going to see in this set that only have some light implications in 60 card, but could be really good in commander. And we were talking about that yesterday on yesterday's stream. That I think we've reached a point where about half the mythics you see are kind of like, okay, these are for constructed, where you might want one or two of maybe, right? And then the other half are kind of just like, these are mostly going to be better in Commander and might show up in the fringe in a deck or two, or maybe a sideboard of some 60 card decks. And I actually kind of like that, right? Because if you're playing a lot of constructed 60 card decks, you don't necessarily need to go hunt down 3 or 4 of a lot of the mythics, right? If you have one or two, sometimes that's all you're going to need. If you play Commander, well, great. There's still value there. Commander players still drive value on some cards, and they only have to go get 1, 2 cards they need out of the set or whatever to fill their deck. So it's actually a good situation for everybody if that's where we're headed. I don't know if that's true, but it does appear to be that way in this set. Let's see what else we got here. Other people loving Kaya. Yep, I agree. I think Kaya is a pretty sweet card. I think white just gaining identity at the same pace isn't gaining pace as same as other colors. Uh, I think the issue you have for white is the thing that white does well aren't necessarily big or flashy in, or even things that people want in Commander, right? Because in Commander you want, oh, I want to have ways to get extra mana and ramp up or whatever. And it's just like, well, white has a couple of things that can let you go search for planes or whatever, just not the thing. So really, I think it's part of that discussion of just like seeing how white shifts over this next year to get into it. Because otherwise, I mean, do you want a bunch of stuff that just taxes things? Like that's cool that white does that, but nobody wants to play every white deck that does that, right? So it's coming with time, but you're seeing a little bit of a shift, and we'll see how that plays out over the next year or two, I'm sure. But yeah, Kevin, I think you're right. Some of it is about white redefining itself. Doomscar is a great white commander card. Well, that goes for probably every sweeper, so it's just another tool. Well, technically, all colors are using its identity, but that's just the game evolving to something newer. On some level, that's probably true. I mean, the game does have to change and keep up with new cards and do different things. And even over time, you'll probably see where, okay, well, maybe this color now removes more enchantments and this removes fewer of them. And maybe this thing removes more artifacts and this removes fewer of them, right? Just probably depends on just flavor, and how we play Magic is different. I think that's a thing we don't talk a lot about. But if you go back to, when I started, I don't know, 25 years ago or whatever, playing Magic, there are simple strategies and things that just didn't apply, which now we all know and just take for granted because we all understand the game better. And with that also means R&D and the people they hire play differently, understand the game differently. The way we engage with it is different. And all of that, I think, is going to change how they design cards. So just something to think about. Is Crush the Weak too expensive to put in your giant deck? I believe the answer is yes. I didn't even consider it, actually. Deals 2 damage to each creature. If a creature was dealt, this is just a sideboard card for me. It's like every other card that says deal 1 or 2 damage to every creature. I just couldn't. I mean, it's just not a spot you like. Why are we playing this main deck? Like, it's probably only useful against, I don't even know, maybe elves of the theme decks. You know what I mean? Like, does it kill enough things in the other decks? Like against mono red? But I mean, if you're already playing spot removal and you're playing Bone Crusher Giant or whatever, you can deal with a lot of what red's doing anyway. Like, I think the problem is the Giants, and this is what I said in the video. One of the toughest thing, and by the way, a lot of y'all are watching the videos and probably just getting the deck list. I recommend watching the videos because I'm actually talking about why and how I got to each of the decisions. The idea is to arm you with information and tools, so even if you don't play the deck as is or you want to change stuff, you're in a position to make better decisions. That's the thing. And I know some people aren't watching because one, I can see the average view time, but two, I see people making comments right below the videos that I specifically mentioned in the videos. Like, well, why'd you not play this card? I'm like, I talk about when you will and won't probably switch it out for that particular card, right? So please, I'm begging you. It helps me and it helps you. Watch the videos. They're not that long. They're like 10 minutes. Like, just watch the video. That helps a lot. But on this type of card, the issue with Giants being so many of your things are just so expensive. And I don't even know when you're going to want to foretell this and set it aside because your early turns, you either need to be making mana or setting up your next couple turns. Just playing this for 2, I don't know if it's enough. Now, I could be wrong. If the format ends up being a bunch of 1 and 2 toughness things, then absolutely go nuts and put your Crusher Weeks in that deck. But I don't know if that's going to be the case because even our Clerics deck has several ways to get things to 3, 4 toughness pretty easy. They're playing the Angels that are going to have 4 and 5 toughness. Like, you might get a couple of cards with this, but I don't know how much better that is than being able to play like Fire Prophecy, get rid of the problem card you're really worried about, and find the mana or the creature you need to get on the board the next turn. There are good cards and bad cards. Well, yeah, of course. Of course. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I've had a mass reanimation at instant speed, especially. Yeah, mass reanimation is a little bit crazy. Your Commander is seeping into 2021. Commander's always going to be around. It's just last year was a particular effort with multiple things reshaping kind of the content for Commander. TCC is comparing white to the other colors and saying other colors outshine white for removal, but I disagree. Swords of Plowshares, players, yeah, yeah. I don't think they necessarily outshine white in removal. I don't know if that's accurate. I think black still has good spot removal, but as far as like the best sweepers, when you want to exile more things, whatever, like white still kind of controls the roost on that. Don't play Commander, so I don't like it, but that might change since this deck makes me consider playing Commander. That's fair. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I tell people I play Commander, but I literally have a Commander deck. Like, okay, that was mostly true until middle late last year. I bought some collections that the people still had their Commander decks together. So I took out a few cards from them that I either wanted to keep or sell. So I may just fill some things in and just have some backup Commander decks, but I mostly just play Rift. And that's okay. Like, I'm a 60 card player most of the time, but when I play Commander, I play super casual, just play big dumb creatures in my Rift deck and have fun. And that's okay. Like, you can treat the formats differently. Not everything has to be super competitive where you have to be heavily invested, and everything doesn't have to be super casual. Like, they exist on different platforms in different ways, and that's totally okay. You can take advantage of it how you want to. So, and I don't think anybody needs to feel entitled, right? If you're only a Commander player, then fine. If you're only a 60 card Magic player, that's fine too. If you only play Constructed or Modern or whatever, like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to engage with the game in any way you don't want to. That's one of the best parts about Magic. It is available to so many people on so many levels, and you can play every which way you want, and nothing's wrong with that at all. So, yeah, do you how you want to when you're playing Magic. Apologies was already asked, which is the better board wipe, Extinction Event or Crippling Fear? Well, let's bring up Crippling Fear, because I think everybody knows Extinction Event at this point. But Crippling Fear for discussion, or it's not going to let us. So there it is. All right. So 4 mana, choose a creature type, exile, or creatures that aren't of the chosen type get -3/-3 until end of turn. So here's the thing. it really depends on the metagame, right? Like, there's going to be times where Extinction Event, since they both cost 4, will be better, right? And you're going to say outright, hey, I want to do whatever. I want to keep my creatures. You lose your things. Maybe I'm playing no creatures. Extinction Event's great. I can get rid of what I want to. The other thing, though, is on something like Crippling Fear, it really depends, right? If I'm playing, say, like the Snow Zombies deck, and maybe I want to sideboard this against an Elf deck, then this is much better than playing Extinction Event, right? Because I've got odd and even costs. I don't want to have to worry about it. I can literally just say, well, I'm choosing zombies. If you're not a zombie, you're getting -3/-3. Now, if you're playing against something in an environment where, let's say, for whatever reason, the Giants deck is good, well, then Crippling Fear is going to be kind of poopy because so many of your Giants are 4 and 5 toughness or whatever, right? So you're not going to kill most of what you want to kill. So then you would rather have an Extinction Event and call odd or even and see if you can get two different cards or 3 different cards with that. So it really just depends on what type of deck it is you're playing. I think that's the biggest thing. And, if you're playing something that has 4, 5, 6 different creature types, then Crippling Fear is not going to be that great for you because you don't know when you're going to actually be able to get to remove the thing you want without hurting your own cards. Or maybe you just say, fine, I want to protect this one creature. Everything that's not this gets -3/-3. Okay, could be a little better. But again, I don't know. Crippling Fear is a good card. I think it's going to get played quite a bit. But again, it does have a limiting factor. Like, if you use this against, I don't know, the mono green decks, right? Where they have a bunch of 4 and 5 toughness. Like, you're not going to kill Lovestruck Beast, Questing Beast, the Troll, like a bunch of different things, right? There's a chance it's just going to do nothing. But if you had Extinction Event, you could get rid of probably 2 of those or 3 of those at the same time, depending on what the board looks like, right? So, I don't know. I think it's really environment dependent. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some decks start out that want to play one, end up playing 2 of each, and just check it out to get a feel for them. And then as the format develops, these may be interchangeable between sideboards and main decks. But we'll see. Dun, 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 dun. Some people think Extinction Event's better than Fear. I think there's going to be people who are on both sides of that fence for sure. What do I think about the angel that exiles your creatures till it dies? Which angel are we talking about? Because there are a lot of angels, and I don't know all the names of the new set yet. So let's just do type line. Let's do angel. We're here from Kaldheim. And see what that gives us. I'm sure I can find the one you're talking about. This one, Glorious Protector. That's what we're talking about. All right. So this one, yes, this card's good. I already have it in some look. Have you not watched my videos? I have several. No, seriously. Watch my videos. I talk about this card. I have it in a couple lists already that are up. I think I have one more coming that it's going to be in. Like, the card's good. I mean, like, this is the stuff I'm asking. Like, have you seriously not watched the work I'm putting out for you? I'm trying to save you time and effort. Go watch the videos. I promise you. You can find applications for this card. It's good. It's good. I mean, seriously, like, and this isn't me being insulting, but like, what part of this are we questioning is good or not? Because I'm very curious. I mean, this is one time where having Foretell does matter because you just may not want that ability till later in the game, and then you can get it cheap. Or on the turns where you don't necessarily want to commit more to the board, you can be like, all right, cool, I'm going to foretell this, and then just see if you have a sweeper or not. Okay, if not, well, now I'm already set up to play this cheaper in the future, and I can keep playing my other stuff. It has flash, so if you just want to play it straight up as a creature, maybe you only had 1 or 2 things. Who knows? Like, you protect one thing, you get this back. There's a lot of just cool things you can do with it. I think it's a neat card for sure. Obviously not good if you're playing Angels because it says non-Angel, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty solid card. The CMC is fine. It's 4 mana for a 3/4 with flying and flash and an ability. That is totally reasonable on rate. Nothing to complain about there. I mean, we play stuff like, well, a bunch of other things that just are cost 4 that probably aren't as good as this. So yeah, there's nothing to question on this card. This card's playable for sure. Honestly, it's probably going to beat me in some games because I'm just going to, like, you're going to be in situations where the only thing you can do is, well, I got to play my last-ditch effort to try to kill this creature or 2, and then they're going to play this and protect it, especially if it's like a Shadow of the Sky or whatever. They play this, wipe out all their stuff, and then this dies and they get all their stuff back and then you're still dead the next turn, right? That's going to be a thing that happens more than once, I'm sure. I think of, instead of green, a Changeling for party, but just access to lands makes the party deck a lot more playable. I already had party decks that were playable, even with the lands. I don't think the lands change it much. I think there's just a ceiling on how good party decks are right now, unfortunately. How do I like... Oh, wait, let's see. Let me skipping over a couple of comments here. Do I have a Berserker deck in your coming list? I do. I think that's going to be one of the later ones, probably on Wednesday. Mostly because it's mostly done, but I want to touch up a couple of things still on it. How do I like interaction between Serulf and Ashaya? Well, let's bring up Serulf, because Serulf is also in tomorrow's Abzan deck. Let's see. We'll bring this up here and talk about Serulf. All right, so Serulf, whenever anything dies, you get, or your opponent's stuff dies, you get to put a counter on it. Then during your upkeep, you can remove the counter, kill all the things that cost less than the number of counters you're removing from Serulf. The thing to remember, too, is you don't get to choose how many you remove. You remove all or none. He's an all-in kind of card. I'm not sure. What do you mean interaction with Ashaya? I'm confused. Am I missing something important this does with Ashaya? Shaya makes 1/1s, or makes lands tap, or creatures tap for lands. Yeah. Makes creatures lands. I mean, I guess that's fine. I mean, I don't like, I guess it's reasonable. I mean, like, that's not something I'm really like, um, yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool. I mean, like, I mean, my problem is I'm trying to think of like, what deck am I playing that I'm going to play both Seraph and Ashaya and be spending time killing things to work up to Ashaya to protect what creatures? You know what I mean? Like, not saying it's not a deck. It's probably a thing. There's a world where that probably exists and is probably playable. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's just more efficient and better things you can do with Ashaya. Like, I mean, we've already shown you can do Ashaya and Ondu inversion, which is a thing, right? We've already done that. You can also play Ashaya along with other landfall trigger things. That's already a thing you can do. I don't even think this is about being jank. I think this is just like trying really hard to make a thing happen with two legendary creatures that your opponent's already going to be targeting to get rid. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like the deck I would be playing these in, I'm not taking advantage of Ashaya's ability to have things be lands. I think that's the thing. Like, I'm playing Ashaya, it feels like I'm playing it almost more just because the thing, the option exists to possibly get Serulf out with it, if that makes sense, right? Like, I don't know if that's what we want to be doing with Magic. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's cool. It's maybe like more of a commandery combo that would be sick if it worked. But I mean, I don't know. It can exist. Yes, it is a thing. As for what do I think about it, I'm probably not going to go crazy with it. I think it's one of those things that if I could fit it into a deck, maybe I play a copy or two because Ralph's actually a decent card on its own. But I mean, the problem is like Ashaya, your best thing is like, what am I playing to take advantage of these landfall triggers or whatever, right? Like, that's the big thing with Ashaya. And I don't know if like there's a combination of those that fits well with Serulf. Plus, you can get in a weird situation where like you go to blow up everything with Serulf, and then your opponent's like, cool, I'm gonna kill your Ashaya with that ability on the stack, and then like now you lost everything, and then you just have Serulf, which kind of sucks. So, it's possible. It's possible. Not something I'm looking to do early though. That might be a deck I put together like mid to late season after I've exhausted all the other options of things to try to play, I think is the thing there. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily terrible. Just not the best things I think you could be doing. This set is going to kill my wallet. I need one needs 6 from each angel. 4 for standard, 1 for EDUA. Oh, you just need 6 of each angel. Gotcha. Yeah, well, yeah, that is going to be difficult. Actually, let me say, I don't think you need 4 of each angel for standard. The ones that cost more than 4, there's a good chance you're not going to ever put more than 2 into a deck. Maybe 3. Don't think you really need 4 of all the different standard angels. So you can probably save your budget a little bit there. Let's see. I cast Historic Intervention to protect against board wipes. That angel will be a nice addition for the added protection. Yeah, I honestly, I think it's in some ways almost better in the sense that it's more versatile. It can help you close the clock. Like you can save it as a defensive card, and then if you end up not like, because the problem is there's times you draw the heroic intervention and you just never hit a spot where you need to cast it, right? Or get to cast it. So you're kind of just like sitting here like, do I want to play this to protect like my 1/2/2 or 3/3 or whatever, But with the angel, if you're just getting it done and your opponent doesn't draw anything, you're just like, okay, cool. Well, during your end step, I'm just gonna make a 3/4 and then try to close this clock. Or even if you get them back to back, it's like, okay, cool. Well, now I can play one aggressively to help close the clock, and I can still save the other one for defense. Granted, it's not going to protect my other angel, but it protects everything else, and that's kind of cool too. Not something you get the option of with the heroic intervention. However, I don't know if you're going to really play it. Like at best, I could see you doing like 2 and 2, but otherwise, I think you have to dedicate to playing one over the other, or else you end up with too many defensive cards and not enough offensive cards, which they both want you to have other creatures, obviously. Think Seraph is a bad card because it kills your creatures also. I do not believe Seraph is a bad card, actually. I think Seraph is fine. Remember, you also don't have to ever remove the counters. You can just let Seraph be a 6/6 or a 7/7. Like, that is totally reasonable. Or you could just like, cool, I'm going to kill a thing, and then I'm going to kill off all your 1 and 2 mana things. Like, if you're playing a deck, like, for instance, the mid-range deck I have tomorrow, that doesn't have anything that's less than... Actually, maybe like one thing, like maybe like a Scavenging Ooze or something that's like less than 3 or something nominal. I don't care about dying. That's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. Um, I want to start playing Magic on paper. What you suggest to buy first? Figure out what deck you want to play. That's the first thing. It's not a thing to buy first. Like, just figure out what you want to play with as a starting point. If you already understand if you don't understand the rules, then just go buy a starter set. If you do already understand the rules, then figure out what you want to play and then just go start buying cards for that thing. Just make an investment, buy that deck outright, and then just have it and then go from there. Play, see if you're in a place, I don't know where you live, but if you're in a place where you can go to local events and play F&Ms at your local store or whatever, go do that. Try to trade for some cards, pick up a few packs, win some store credit. Like, slowly build up from there. But if you don't know how to play it all, then I would just wait. And honestly, I would say if you live in a place where you're not going to local stores or whatever right now, obviously due to the pandemic, then I would probably just save up. So when that time comes, say 4, 5, 6 months from now, as people start getting vaccinated and everything, you can go and just outright buy a deck and be ready to play. That would be my suggestion. Snow rules all. I don't know. It might, but we'll find out. Snow sets are the best sets to invest in. I don't what? I be careful about investment advice. That's all I'm gonna say. I want to start play. I have 2 decks Spellslinger. Okay, so you got the Spellslinger starter thing, but I want to face with someone and I need a better deck. Yeah, literally, it's just there's tons of stuff. I mean, my channel is full of decks. There's MTG Top 8. There's MTG Melee. There's whatever. Like, you can see all the different decks people are playing in tournaments and stuff. All I can say is find the type of deck you like and then just play. There's really no other advice there. It's like, if you already know the rules, then it's just decide what you want to play or how you want to play Magic. If it's standard, go pick up a standard deck. If your local area has a bunch of modern players, pioneer players, whatever, then cool. Figure out what's good in that format that you like to play and then go pick that up. That would be my thing. Let's see. Let me go down the comments here. Is there some jank thing that can work with using Tybalt's trickery in standard, bringing some unbeatable thing? I don't think anything would be unbeatable. Is there a thing? Maybe, but it's nothing I would put together and recommend anybody right out of the gate because a lot of it's going to be format dependent on, well, metagame dependent on what I would include in that deck list. Even one from my kill option or threat, plus also what else the deck would have to look like to even be reasonable. So until things settle in, I'm probably not even going to try to build one of those. Go look them on eBay. Only Tueler's Snow Set, but over. I don't even know what you're trying to say there. Suggestions on a good giant standard deck. I think giants are still going to be a struggle. They're going to be tough. I have a giant deck I put up a couple days ago on the channel. Feel free to watch it. It is a Teamer Giants list. It's what I could come up with that I thought was reasonable and could allow you to cast all your stuff on time and make use of new cards. How strong it is, I don't know. I think the Giants are just going to have the issue of a lot of times you're going to be limited to like a spell a turn, and you're just going to hope to not hit a whole bunch of removal from your opponents. But that's the best I would say about that. But yeah, feel free to check out the video. I put it up 2 days ago. Frost just seems bad. His first static ability is bad. Why is it bad? When you kill an opponent's creature, you get a +1/+1. Like, I don't even understand why that's bad. Stop, Hoodrat, stop. We're not doing this today. Like, Seraph is fine. Just saw a turn 2 Ugin deck with Trickery. That's a thing that you could do. If that hits, that's pretty sicko. What would you think about the blue counter with Foretell? Saw it coming. It's okay. I think if you're playing a control type deck and you already want to be playing stuff like 3 mana counters anyway, then you go ahead and play it, and then you get a discounted counter on a later turn. It's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Well, sure, but each of those snow sets is also forever old, and I would also say there's other sets that are worth investing in as well. I don't think it's particularly the snow sets. There's a lot of things that if you go back and look from that old sell for quite a bit. So, sure. This set, though, is standard legal and at a time where there's more useful cards for more formats. So I just think the set as a whole will be viable anyway on top of everything else. Could be fun as hell. Just mulligan until you get the 2 Tybalt's Trickery. Counter your own Tybalt's Trickery for Ugin. Oh yeah, you definitely have 0 mana things you could do. That's for sure. That makes it totally viable. Like, nothing wrong with that. How consistent is it, I think, would be the bigger thing, right? Like, are you worried about, like, is the environment full of discard spells, spell counters? I mean, even if you get that, I don't know what type of resources you spent or what you've had to build to get the Ugin, but is that even the best thing? Because people are playing stuff like Bloodchief's Thirst, right? Well, if they don't have to get rid of something early with it, well, then turn 4, they're just going to kill your Ugin. You know what I mean? So it's powerful for a couple turns. You'll still do, like, whatever, 9 damage or something in the interim. Well, maybe, because you're still doing that on either your opponent's turn 2 or 3. So it's possible you maybe even get 1, possibly 2 activations off the Ugin before they kill it anyway. So I don't know. Maybe less even if they're playing something like Murderous Rider or whatever. So that is an awesome janky thing you can do. I just don't know if it's like the type of game ending thing you could do. If there were like something with hexproof probably excites me more. But even then, like, I don't know. Again, it's a metagame thing, right? Because then if they're just playing like extinction events or whatever, like, I don't know. It's tough. Let's see. Like, Ugin does not win the game by himself because, well, yeah, sure, absolutely. That's what he's talking about. Do you believe there is a clumping problem with Arena Shuffler? I have an utterly ridiculous draws in Arena. No, I don't believe there's a clumping problem. Partly because I play plenty of games of Arena, and it's just a numbers game. Like, I have seen... The thing is, the things people complain about in Arena, I've also seen in paper when I've had it happen. The difference is, though, I'm just seeing way more hands and way more games in Arena than I am in paper. Obviously, well, none right now in paper, except for when I play Spell Table and play Commander. But generally speaking, like, I've had those games in paper where I've had my opener, I've had like 4 of a card there or 3 of a card there. You know, I've had those games where I've drawn 10 lands in a row, right? Like, those happen in paper just as well as they do in Arena. The difference is, though, even when I was playing regularly, you know, F&Ms or Saturday events at my local stores, in those matches or even those events as a whole, I'm only seeing, I don't know, maybe 12 opening hands. You know, I see that many in Arena in, hell, a couple hours. You know what I mean? Not even a couple hours sometimes, depending on what I'm playing. I might do it in about an hour and a half if I'm playing best of ones, you know? So, but that's also, we're talking about, that's best of one. I'm seeing that in an hour and a half, maybe two, over a 4 to 5 hour period of paper Magic, right? So it can look worse in Arena when you're seeing, let's say in the course of a week, you might see 100 hands, right? But to see that in paper would be, hell, maybe 2 months worth of matches for you, and you did that in 1 week or less in Arena. You know what I'm saying? That, I think that's why it looks so egregious to us. It's kind of one of the reasons to kind of go the other direction when we were when poker was big, right? And I was, I won't say I was like a professional. I was maybe semi-professional. I supplemented my income with some poker play. And one of the things there was, there are strategies you apply because they're percentage plays, right? But when I'm playing online and I can have 6 tables going and I'm seeing, you know, maybe sometimes 30 or 40 hands an hour per table, like those percentages add up, right? Because I'm seeing all those hands constantly. But when I'm playing at a table game and I'm at one table where I might get 15 or 20 hands in an hour if I'm lucky, right? Well, you know, those same percentage plays that, though they might pan out in the long run that you're used to making, don't necessarily apply the same here, because like, well, I'm not going to have time to make this money back up if that percentage point doesn't hit here or whatever. You still make the play because if you're playing consistently over a long term, it's going to work out to your advantage, obviously. But it can feel different because you don't have that many hands coming back where it balances out over that maybe a 2 hour, 3 hour play session. So where I'm seeing those 15 hands or 20 hands, I would be seeing hundreds of hands, you know, at the same time in that time frame. So kind of the same thing applies for Arena. It's just a matter of how many you're seeing kind of shapes your feelings toward what's happening, because it looks more egregious because you're like, man, this feels like it just happened again. But the reality is it happened like 30 hands ago. But 30 hands might only have been 2.5 hours apart. You know, whereas if it happens in paper, well, it happened on this Friday. It maybe doesn't happen again for 2 months, right? So you barely even remember the last time it happened. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. So for me personally, no, I don't believe there's a problem. But I will say this: every single game I know of, every card game, digital card game, online has had somebody complain about the shuffler. I mean, you could literally go Google search, you know, Hearthstone, Runeterra, Gwent, Soulforge, whatever. Like they're all, and just put in like, is this game rigged? Is the shuffler rigged? Is whatever. Like insert game name is rigged. Like every game has their audience that believes that. So either every game's using the same thing, every single game's using a broken shuffler, or it's really not that big of a thing and it's just weird human perception. And I'm seeing that it's happened in every game I can think of, and I see the complaints in every forum and everything. I have to assume it's just human perception at this point. Well, I found you can use a tutor with 4 Minotaurs for 5/4s with haste, but it's a lot more risky. Use the tutor. Oh yeah. You're talking about the Bellow whatever's. Yeah, we put that into a deck on stream. Was it like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? We did that. I meant to send that to MTG top 8 just to say, look, we did it and we got the things into play, but we didn't even win the game. We just got a bunch of Minotaurs, so it's just kind of funny. And does it win? I don't know. It can. I think the problem is it's hard to just find an I win card in standard right now, unless you're setting up some combo. It's kind of hard. Are the top snowlands too slow for constructed? That almost felt like a tongue twister for some reason. Are the tap snowlands too slow for constructed? Or will they be required for any snow deck? Well, no, I don't think they are actually. I don't even remember. Did I put them in my... I might have even put a couple in my Snow Zombies deck. I don't remember. Maybe I did. I know I have a deck coming out sometime in the next 2 days that I play like 2 or 3 of them. So yeah, like they're totally playable. I think it just depends on your deck. If you're trying to be super aggro, you're not going to want a whole bunch of them, right? Especially if you're playing 3 colors. But splashing like for 2 of them or 1 of them or whatever here or there just to smooth your mana out is totally reasonable. I mean, people play some of the other ones that are significantly worse. I think, people play the ones that like just gain a life or whatever. And it's like the benefit you're getting from a thing being snow is better than in a lot of decks than the thing you're getting from gaining life in most cases. So I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I don't think you're automatically going to look to play 4. I think it depends on the deck, especially if you're also playing other things alongside it that come into play tapped. Like if you're playing those next to Triomes or Fable Passages or Temples, you're going to have to be really judicious on which ones you choose to play because you can get in a situation where you draw 3 lands that come into play tapped. And then that's a problem, right? Because now you're not going to even be able to play your cards on time, and then it's just going to get kind of weird. So that's the thing you have to consider. Is I think Open the Omen Path, the red ramp card, instant ramp for enchantments will be good in unpredictable Cyclone build, Song Creation builds, 2 Lich decks. Quite possibly. I think it's possible. It does generate more mana than you spend on it, which is always good, so it gives you +1. If you're in the market for those types of things, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a card that goes in some of those decks. I've seen some people trying to cram it into just aggro decks. And I don't think it's terrible because you can use the other half to give your creatures +1. But I'm not sure it's the card I necessarily want to like draw later in the game. You know what I mean? It's like if I have it on turn 3, even in say mono red, where I can go like creature, turn 3, Torbran or something. Well, I can't even Torbran because Torbran's 3 red and a colorless, so that wouldn't even work because you have to choose 2 of one color, 2 of another color, so that doesn't work. Maybe if, I don't know, you're playing a dragon or something, or you want to put like another 1/1 and an axe onto the board, but then you're down an extra card to do that. Like, I don't know. But like you're saying, I think if you're saying in something like Unpredictable Cyclone to maybe get to where you can cast the card a turn sooner, or something in Song of Creation where you're trying to just keep the combo going. It's like, okay, it's another spell. I generated more mana, so now I can cast another thing. That actually makes a lot of sense. I don't have a problem with that. Jumping in the stream to see the goat. Well, I don't know if I'm the goat, but thanks for stopping by. Modern has Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Well, yeah, you have just big monsters you can go get that can end the game, for sure, in older formats. After the entire preview, so you have a favorite card of the set that you're most excited to use. Like 40 things, honestly. I know it's a terrible answer, but no, there's a lot of cool cards, truthfully. I'm trying to cram them all in decks daily right now and get them out to y'all. I've been playing your Cyclone deck, and the only issue is the Cyclone really needs to hit the field turn 3. If it does, and you're holding any Cyclone cards, it's GG. Well, yeah, that deck is mediocre anyway. Like, I even said that when playing it. It's fun. I wouldn't try to do crazy ranks with it. If you can get it on 4, it's still mostly fine. And you can function without getting it for a while. But, yeah, I mean, we know what the deck is just looking at it. Is Redain God of the worthy to slow down snow decks? Let's bring up Redain so people know who we're talking about here. Whoop. I guess it doesn't help. Oh, I put an apostrophe and it still found it. That's awesome. I didn't know that was going to be a thing. All right. Yeah. Redain actually is okay at slowing down snow things. Mostly because the worst case scenario, if people are leaning, and this is a card that very much, the top ability to slow down snow stuff is kind of like okay. You're really playing for the other abilities, right? To keep your opponent from casting those like Shatter the Skies, Extinction Events, whatever. Like that's what you're playing this for. And then the backside is actually really good too, in the sense that it actually lets you keep your opponent from targeting your stuff easier, which is also another thing you like. So I'm a big fan of this card. I think it's totally fine. I would play it. Both sides are relevant. I think that's a big deal. Now, how many things your opponent going to play with like converted mana cost 4 or more that are going to target your things? There's not a ton, just being honest. But it's a non-zero number that matters. And, you're still stopping snow lands on the backside too. So I'm okay with it. I think it's reasonable. I could see situations where I play it. More than likely, though, you're going to want this more sideboarded than main deck. Unless we reach a point in Standard where, like, half the field is playing Snowlands. If that's the case, then yeah, you start finding main deck homes for it, for sure. Let's see. Going back through here. Will you drop deck Seralf is in? Will you drop deck Seralf is in? It'll come out when it's scheduled to come out. I believe I have one with Seralf coming out tomorrow. So keep your eyes on that. It's an Abzan mid-range list. Tap lands are fine in standard, weird, and historic. Very true. Do you think Maskwood Nexus finds a home in party decks combo with the token generator, Turbo Full Party? I have a party list coming. It does play Maskwood Nexus. Just being able to make the tokens doesn't particularly do anything. It's another neat thing to give you more creatures, but it's not like, I think the payoff people want to exist for party just doesn't exist right now. I think that's it in a nutshell. Like, it's a fine deck, it plays okay, but it's not doing something amazing because now I have all these party types, right? I wish I had better news, but I mean, like, that's just what party is at this point in time. Hi, new viewer. What deck types do you think Vorinclex will be essential in? I don't think it's essential in anything. It's a decent card. It has haste, which I like. It's a 6/6 for 6, but ultimately it's outclassed by some other cards that it looks right now, namely Elder Gargaroth. So if there's an environment where you're trying to play extra Planeswalkers, where you are, I don't know, maybe there's other opponents that are putting a lot of tokens on things or counters on things, then sure, go for it. Play Vorinclex. Makes a lot of sense. But I feel like Vorinclex, other than just being a big body, is largely going to be metagame dependent. Or, like I said, if I'm playing a deck that already is playing tokens or counters on things, or playing a bunch of Planeswalkers, then, like, maybe that's fine. And I want to go ahead and play Vorinclex. But outside of that, I don't really know. It almost feels like a card that's a plant for later more than anything else. But it is a big body, so, you know. Thoughts on how many snow-covered forests you'd want in a Stompy mono green snow deck? All of them? Like, I mean, if it's a snow deck, then every forest I would play should just be a snow-covered forest. Any Planeswalker? Oh, I see what you're saying there. What are the must-craft cards outside of lands? I don't have a must-craft list. I think that's just a matter of what decks you choose to play. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm putting out a bunch of decks. Y'all have this information ahead of time. You can see different ideas, different strategies, different cards I'm using, and you can make that decision for what you want. I don't think it does us any good to go and say, all right, here's 20 cards in the set that you must craft. Okay, cool. You spent your resources, but what if you never build that Gruul deck or that Azorius deck? Well, you've now crafted a card that, who cares if the card's good? If you're not using it, it doesn't matter. I don't think it's a must craft thing. I think it's a matter of per color, per style, per strategy that you choose to play. And that may be different for each person. Like, you know, I might sit here and say, like, well, you know, this the angel we're talking about, the protector, might be fantastic, and you should probably craft this because it's going to be a good card. But if you end up playing a bunch of control decks, then that's an irrelevant card for you to craft. You know, I think if you're going to go build a deck, then yes, you go ahead and craft the appropriate lands first for that deck because you're probably going to use those in the next deck or whatever. But I don't know if I really just have a list of things you just go must craft. It's just not. I mean, other people are probably making those lists, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that content existing. It's just something I don't feel like telling people to do because it's just, you'd be spending your resources on a thing you particularly just may not use. I don't know. Then maybe there's like a subcategory of, like, if it's a certain style of deck, if you play like White Weenie, then maybe you want these. If you're playing Gruul, craft these. If you're playing this, craft it. But that's a gigantic list if we do that. I have a really good Redain deck. It's a tax deck. I could see that being a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a deck. Been watching videos since getting back in MTG at the start of the pandemic and needing something to keep my mind moving. Just subbed. Appreciate the content. Thank you so much, Big Rab. What's your prediction on the biggest sleeper in Kaldheim in any format? We went over this on yesterday's stream. I don't have sleepers. Like, at some point, if people just want a list, I can just make a list so that it's out there and it exists. But I have a belief that whatever I pick for sleepers, only 30% are going to hit anyway. I think that's way on most sleepers lists. That's just why they're sleepers. So, I mean, what I normally ask on those questions is, what do you want to get out of that? Is there a certain answer you're looking for? Is a certain type of thing you're looking for? A certain card you're looking for? And I can probably answer the question. But I don't have a particular sleeper. I mean, I build a lot of decks. Like, anybody who follows the channel knows, as the season goes on, like this last season, I think I built like 100 different decks or something, right? There's just piles of decks. So I'm probably going to play with a lot of stuff at some point anyway. So I don't know if there's a particular thing I would call a sleeper. let's see. Uh, Redain seems nuts to me. Slows no decks and delays the board wipe to round 5. Yeah, I mean, it can be. Thank you for all the content and taking time to answer our questions. You are very welcome, Kavevis. Uh, Starmheim Courser. Cool. We went over that already yesterday. We're not going to rehash that again today. I feel like Party is better in Historic than Standard right now. That might actually be the case. I play very little Historic, so I can't speak to that, unfortunately. Just seems an auto-include an aggressive whites. Maybe. We'll find out as the season moves on. No reason to not play all snow-covered stuff. Yeah, generally speaking, if you're playing snow stuff, then yeah, you got to just play all the snow lands. Thanks for answering my question. I'm out. See you later, Travis. Snowlands are the same. Arsenal, yes, they are the same. Absolutely. They function in every way, but they count as a snow permanent. But if something says basics or just says forest or whatever, it still treats the snowland as though they are those things. Sorry for the confusion. I mean, number of snow-covered forests versus castles plus MDFs and things like. Again, I'm not. What I'm saying is, however you would build the deck normally, you probably still want to do that. But where you would put a forest, just put a snow-covered forest. Like, I know it sounds very basic, but, like, you're probably going to end up with a list that has something like 19 or 20 forest, right? Because you're probably going to be playing 24-ish lands, 25 lands, with 3 or 4 of them probably being castles or something. Just turn all the rest into snow-covered things. That's probably it. I think the Red-White Saga is going to be OP. I think that the extra card draw, similar to Escape from the Wilds effect. I don't even remember which one you're talking about. Until we learn names, that's not going to do them any good. So let's go look at card type. Saga. Red and whites. Nope, why did that not take that? Hold on. There we go. Creature type Saga. In Kaldheim, let's see what we got. Oh, she must be talking about this one? Exile the top for cards your library until the end of the turn. Next is maybe. It can be. It is a powerful card. Whenever you get spell a turn, put +1/+1 on target creature control. My problem is I just don't know what deck I'm playing yet where both sides of the where all the chapters are relevant. I think it's the only thing I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. It's similar to Escape to the Wilds, but the difference with Escape to the Wilds that made it really good is you could also play additional lands. So not only did you get the extra cards, you got to put more lands into play, which sometimes allowed you to play a card you just got already, especially with the adventures. But then you also had additional mana going into the next turn, which was a big thing. So is it the same impact? I don't think so. Also, you got an extra card off Escape for the Wilds, because Escape to the Wilds was kind of a silly card. But I think it's still good. I just don't know what particularly it goes into just yet. Like, because I thought about, if I'm just playing, say, like, a Warriors list or some red-white aggro list, like, do I want this? Like, getting extra cards is kind of sweet, but I only have one turn to play them. So, like, it kind of forces my hand of, like, choose it or lose it sort of thing, right? Like, so then my next turn's about only playing these cards, or I lose the value of them. And then I do get a bonus if, I have creatures out already, so I kind of like it. So I'm just not sure. Like, it feels good in theory. I just don't know the application yet. Which I'm sure somebody else is going to find something better to do with it, and just it's going to be mind-blowing when it happens. I just haven't gotten there yet. Makes a bunch of decks every single day to make sure he has the best content for us. I don't know. Here's the thing, Dom. Like, I don't even know if I have the best content. My thing is, and this is my philosophy, like, I'm just trying to play some things, sometimes competitive, sometimes not, just showing different ideas and concepts, and more just talking through them and explaining the choices and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you are armed with information. And that's why I tell people to watch the videos. Don't just take the deck list, because part of what I'm doing is explaining why certain situations may or may not work for each deck. And then even in the wrap up saying, okay, now that I've played these like 5, 6, 7 matches or games or whatever, this is my takeaway. Here's what I feel about it. Here, it may or may not be good. Here's some things I would switch or whatever, right? I know people, again, we talked about this probably about an hour ago. But I know some people aren't even watching the videos; they're just taking a deck list because they'll immediately comment, you know, well, this looks this way, or this isn't as good as this, or and I'm like, I literally said that in the video, right? Like, so a lot of what I do is about education, right? Though, and not education in like the sterile academia term, but more about education and just arming people with information, right? So there's some stuff I do for entertainment that's just like the cool box openings and stuff, right? But even when I do my box openings, I try to share stories and talk about different things or how I've used stuff before, whatever, other than just like, hey, look at all the stuff in the box, right? Or look at all the packs we opened. Like, I try to add something to it, and that's kind of what I do with my videos. It's not. I mean, hell, there's people like Jimmy and Josh over in Game Nights that are making just better content. I mean, better cameras, better scripting. They've got better editors and digital people. So it's just like great. They've got a payroll of folks. So they're definitely making better content. That is not a question. But I think for what I do, we do all right. I'm able to offer something that's different and help some people out. And I try to be different than just the other deck play gameplay videos, right? So there's a lot of those you can find, and there's several good people out there doing it. I just try to add something different in a different layer. I was surprised by how many people didn't even know I did the card spotlight. I started doing like a month ago on my videos, and that's why I put the poll out because I talked to a couple people and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this thing," and it turns out there's like 35-40% of the people who watch my stuff didn't even know that was a thing. And some of it, I'm doing it to like give educational history on cards. Sometimes it's like, hey, you may want to go buy this card because it actually has a chance. And remember, one of the first ones I did was the Visa Cold Eyes when the card was like $2 or $3. That thing shot up to like, when I last looked at it, it was like 12 or 15 bucks, right? Like 4 or 5 days after I made the video. So there you go, right? Like it's a thing. Um, and then some stuff just like, hey, you might see these in bulk boxes when you're going through things or collections. Like you should probably pick these up. They trade very well, or people are still looking for these. So just giving you different types of information kind of wrapped up in a video on the channel. So same thing what I'm doing with these deck videos, right? Part of it is, yes, I could have just came up with 20 plus lists and put them into one video. Cool. But this is allowing me to talk about all the cards independently, talk about possible replacements or strategies that could happen, how the metagame could affect stuff, and then make them all searchable. So depending on what you're looking for as far as deck type, it's available. So just different things for different people, I guess. Let's see. Kind of need to back up here a little bit. Anyone else building an angel or an elf deck? I have an elf deck up, and I have an angel deck that's coming in a day or two. I have a half decent Rakdos party deck in standard. It was disappointing that Kaldheim had Berserkers tribal instead of sweet black or red warriors. Yeah, that's true. I kind of assumed there would be more warriors here, but there really wasn't. And that is a little bit of a surprise, but they wanted to make a different tribe. Not sure what else to say about it. I don't know. Maybe flavor-wise, the way they're dumped, they make more sense of being like crazy berserkers more than organized warriors, and maybe that's why they chose to go with what they did. Thanks for answering your question. Sorry if these have been answered. Does Vorinclex shut down all sagas and confirmed to work on Planeswalkers? Yes. One thing I would say is that's a type of environment where something like Vorinclex could be good, right? If we do see people playing a lot of Planeswalkers, a lot of sagas, just anything that's just putting counters on stuff of different types, like then sure, definitely go with Vorinclex. But I think if that's not the case, that's what we are saying earlier. Vorinclex is mostly just a big body till we see what the metagame shapes into. Each game night episode does take thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of time. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the other thing too. When I've seen people complain about like, well, y'all are doing these videos for Wizards every time like a new product comes out and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, that's how you're able to get the content that they put out. That they go make big deals with Wizards, with Ultra Pro, with they have these other sponsors for individual videos that they go get. That yes, they are doing that because they are able to make a living, a good living, because they are getting these people to pay for contracts and pay for footage, right? So they got to do it, and I don't blame them. I would do it. Like if Ultra Pro's like, hey, we're gonna pay you extra money to do videos this way, I'd be like, cool. Then I'm gonna start doing my videos that way. right? I can still put out the content I want, but it's going to be presented in this fashion because that's what the sponsor wants and they're paying money for it. That's what Wizards is doing. And I'm sure along the way, they're probably getting free product and everything else sent to them so they can do more stuff. And that's great. Good for them. They've earned it. You know, it reminds me of when I was growing up in high school. I saw this group, Typo Negative, which some people know who they are. They're a rock band. But I saw them when they were in Houston and they were playing just a dive bar junkie show, you know, and I saw them a few years later as they started to make it and they had an album out and all this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And a couple of my friends who were way into them way back, and were like, yeah, but they sold out and blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what do you expect them to do? Keep playing dive bar, hole in the wall places and scrape by and barely be able to pay their bills? Like, if you were in that situation and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, we can give you a contract with like, I don't know, a $50, 100 or 50,000 or $100,000 advance for each of you. And then, you know, you'll get this percentage of whatever. And then we'll put you on these concert tours. Well, then absolutely you're going to take it. Like now, everything you've worked for, you can pay off all your debts. You can give your family a good life or whatever, right? Like it's weird that people hold that perspective. I mean, I get it. People want to hate the band and hate the corporation or whatever. Like I understand. There's good reason for that in a lot of places for how things go down. Totally understand. But at the end of the day, as content creators, we're still trying to pay ourselves and still like if you enjoy the content of say something like game nights, they can't keep putting out that level content for you without getting support in some way, right? So unless everybody who follows game nights goes and signs up for a Patreon or signs up for their YouTube thing or whatever, they're not going to make the same amount of money. They're just not, especially when literally they have a payroll over at game nights. Like I'm doing this myself, right? And even then, I can tell you it eats a lot of time. But they have themselves, they have a extra producer, they've got videographers, they have digital artists, you know, they've got somebody for PR and stuff. Like they have a real team. All those people are making a living because they're able to get corporate dollars to pay for their thing. And, you know, a lot of people, hell, there's a lot of people that watch game nights that don't even subscribe, right? They haven't even done that little bit, much less send direct money. So I don't hate them for doing what they're doing. Like, good for them that they're making a living. I've never met Josh, but I've met Jimmy, and he was a cool, fun dude. So I got no hate against them at all. I think it's good what they're doing. I would love to be in their position in the future at some point if I could be so lucky. But, you know, we take what we can get. We just hit 10,000 subscribers, so we're still excited about that. By the way, I'm gonna have the t-shirts up on the merchandise store hopefully by the end of tomorrow, so people can go get them. They are going to say 10K by the 1st across the chest. So I'm gonna make them available probably just in one color, and I'm only gonna sell them at $1 or 2 over cost. So I'm gonna make almost nothing. And oh, thank you so much, Hoodrat. Uh, I'm not gonna try to make a bunch of money off them. I think it's just gonna be cool to celebrate a cool thing. And I'm only gonna keep them available for probably about 45 days. Because at that point, we'll probably be at 10,200, 10,400 or something. And it's not gonna make sense to have those up anymore. So there'll be a limited thing, and then I'll just take them off the shop. So I'll make sure everybody knows when they're available if you want one. They'll be fairly cheap. Uh, and the cool part is, even if you're international, the way Stream Elements has their shop set up, they have shops, excuse me, in Europe and whatnot. So shipping is a lot less if you're outside of the US, which is awesome. So you don't have to pay crazy amounts to get one. Search for Grayson is a good card, but not that good that it completely stops aggro and control. Well, here's the thing. I think Search for Greatness allows for some fun things. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is the one of the cards. Did I not type that correctly? Search for Greatness. Nope, I must have spelled. There must be a different. It must have a different name that I'm actually typing in it as. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, it's one of the cards I'm struggling with because I want to build a deck for it. I feel like, oh, Search of Greatness. I don't know why I thought it was Search for. Why Search of Greatness is such a weird name. Why would it not be search for greatness? That's like an actual phrase. Oh, in search of greatness. Gotcha. Yeah, that's also weird. I would have just called it search for greatness. I think that's what we're all trying to call it, but that's not what it's called. Anyway, let me grab some water here real quick. This is one of the cards I do want to build a deck with, but I feel like it's going to take me longer to. I'm going to have to spend time on this particular deck. Excuse me. And when I'm trying to put so many decks out, I just don't have the time to try to find what the best thing is I could be doing with this. So unfortunately, I'm just going to pass on it, and I'll probably come around to this in like a week or two. And honestly, somebody else would probably figure out something awesome to do with it well before I do at that point. And I'm okay with that. I think I'm willing just to accept that. Not a huge deal. Where the Kaldheim has both Search of Greatness and Search for Glory. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it should be Search for Greatness and Search for Glory, right? Those should both be a thing. I think this can just be good in a lot of lists. I mean, I think it depends on just how you want to build your deck, how you want to ramp up. Like, do you play it a certain way, but only play like maybe 2 copies of all the things at the higher cost so you can ramp up to go find them? Do you just have a cap that maybe you're only trying to get to a 4 or 5 mana thing regularly? Like, that's a thing you can do. I don't know. There's just a lot of things, and it's about like you got to get cards in hand. And it's just like, I don't know. There's a way. There's a way. I'm sure there's a list out there. I have no doubt that this is going to show up somewhere and be very good. But I don't think it's the crazy broken thing people are trying to make it out to be. You know, because it's also like you can cast a permanent spell versus like previous cards like it where you're sacking a thing already on the table to turn it into another thing. I think that's a little bit different. But we also have the other artifacts that also like let you sack a creature, go search for a thing. Like, do those even belong in the same decks? Possibly. You know, that's a question. It's like I don't really know. I don't know, but it's definitely a thing that's going to show up somewhere. I just don't have a deck list for it yet, so I apologize to y'all for that. I can tell you up front, as of now, I don't have a list that I'll be posting in the next couple days that includes this. So, and it's mostly just because like I don't have anything I feel confident in yet that I would even put out there yet. I have a bunch of other lists that I'd rather tune up and clean that I think would be better for people to spend resources on right from the get go, and then this can come later. Yeah, mostly because also a lot of the cards in several of these other lists that you would probably be crafting can be used in other decks. Like there's some stuff, depending on how I build this, that you might only play in this particular deck that has it, right? Or even in Search of Greatness itself may only go in that one particular build, and it may not be good in anything else. I don't know if people who are limited on resources possibly should be crafting that right out of the gate. I don't know. But for me, it's more about just I know to clean that deck up, I would have to dedicate a good amount of time, and I'm just spending time cranking out other deck lists right now. Like I said when I started the stream, I mean I have another 9 decks that y'all haven't even seen yet, right? And I still have 2 or 3 more that I still want to put together at all. That I don't even have like a frame yet. I just have like an idea. So it could end up being a total of like 23, 24 decks before this is all done, you know, by release day. So that's a lot of content that I just can't spend messing with this card. I want to, it'll happen, but it probably won't be for another 2 weeks or so. And by then I may just start from a base of somebody else's deck that they already put together. I think mono green or food are where this can fit in as card advantage for 2 or 3 cards usually. Yeah, maybe. I think it's a matter though of what do you replace, right? Do you want to replace like Trail of Crumbs? You know, all right, like because that's already doing a lot of work and it makes food and the food works for other stuff in your deck and then you have other things that make food that can help to get you more cards. Like that deck already has a lot of advantage. Like at what point are we replacing actual threats to just play stuff like this? Right? And does that deck want to take turn 2 off to just play this? And then you maybe only have lands out so you can play a 2 mana thing for free. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, you might be right, though. I mean, I could see that being a thing. I just, maybe those decks have to change what they look like currently to be able to make more use of this card. I would not be surprised if that's the case. I don't think it's good enough without enough 1-drops. might be good in Historic. I don't know if it needs 1-drops or not. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of assumptions we're making about this card from multiple perspectives, but I don't know that any of those are particularly right or wrong. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it also could just be like, hey, then maybe this card's good enough that it works fine in just a for real, I don't know, Gruul aggro list. It's just one of your early things you can play, and then boom, you just start knocking stuff out. Like I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. Probably not. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know the application for this card yet. It's one of those ones because it works so differently. We have to really consider like what can really be done with this card. With Yorion, you can blink sagas with their last chapter on the stack. Yes, we've been able to do that. We've done that with Escape from the or Elspeth Conquers Death has been a thing we've done that with. Let's see what else we got here. It does say Scry 1. That's true. I'll be rare drafting the first couple of weeks anyway before crafting anything. I have 9k gems and 65k gold saved up. That's cool. Yeah, some people, y'all get down with the draft, and that's how you spend your resources. Like for me, I usually build my first 2, possibly 3 decks, spending the gold and the gems I have available, and then use that first like 4 or 5 days, build up enough excess, and then I'll just look at what I have and say, okay, cool. Now that I've built up a few things, I've got some extra gold, open some packs. Let me go ahead and open or build this next deck with the resources I have. Okay, then I'll build this next deck. Then I build, and then once you're on like deck 6 or 7, you now have so many cards from daily plays and gold and possibly stuff you've won if you played any of the challenges or whatever, that now you can just start building stuff and it becomes pretty easy. But it's just part of a cycle I've gotten into that works for me. What is my favorite Throne of Eldraine card? Favorite Throne of Eldraine card. Is it a cop-out if I say Embercleave? See, I don't know. Even for Embercleave, I can't even say it's favorite. It's mostly because it's one of the times there were like people were trying to say like, I don't know, this card's only good in Magic Christmas Land. And then I was like, no, I think I'm gonna go buy extras of these because I'm gonna make some money on Embercleaves because y'all don't believe. And then in the first like 2 weeks, I ended up more than doubling my money on the cards. Favorite card from Throne of Eldraine. Questing Beast, probably. Yeah, that's probably the answer. I had to think about that pretty hard. I mean, it's weird because I don't really think of, like, and people who follow my other streams on Twitch know because this has come up a few times. But I don't have a lot of favorites. I'm one of the weird people like that. I have like a few things, maybe 5 or 6 things that I have like a favorite of for various reasons, but otherwise, like I just enjoy a lot of things. You know, trying to think just like what cards have I had that showed up in a lot of decks or something that have been on the channel. It's like there's probably something in there that's my favorite. But yeah, it's probably Questing Beast. Titan Smash. I don't know if I am yet because for whatever reason I didn't get the email. So I reached out to him, just let him see what's going on about that. But if I do play, it'll just be like last time where I just play all day. I just took a break. Last couple times I did it where I played in the morning, took a break around 3 p.m. Pacific time, recorded my podcast with my co-host, and then I got back on in the evening. I started my like evening stream early. I think I started at 8 instead of at 9, and then just go to like midnight or 1. So I'll probably keep the same schedule whenever I play. But yeah, like I said, it is a busy day, but like even if I end up not, I still have things I can do. Trust me, I will find a way to be busy. But yeah, I don't know. I got the initial email saying like, "Hey, you applied. You'll get the email." Process like normal. So who knows? Could be an oversight. Could be one of those things where like, who knows? Maybe my email blocked it or something because they shot out a bunch of emails at once. Like, could be a billion things. So I'm not worrying about it till I hear back from their folks on Monday. We'll see what's up after that. But yeah, any other questions or decks or anything people want to talk about? And we covered a lot here in about an hour and a half. Like, it was a lot of information. So hope it helped people. But yeah, like I said, this is for y'all to drive the discussion because obviously I'm putting up decks every day. I have a ton of stuff up. Still more coming tomorrow. I already have. I think I told everybody we've got Abzan mid-range tomorrow. And I believe also, nope, that's Tuesday. Abzan mid-range and the Jund Death Touch list tomorrow. And then I think after that, and maybe even if I clean it up enough, we might include the Abzan party list might get in there as well. I don't know. I have to see. There's a bunch of things happening. I got to figure out how I fit that all in. Well, here's the thing, and I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, I was talking to November Lima, and like our lists are very similar. I think I'm playing one card that he's not. I mean, well, like two copies of a card that he's not, and then we've adjusted like plus or minus one or two cards of each card, kind of the rest of the way. But which is kind of interesting because I don't know if it means hey, we both got there on the first try and it's close to right, or we're both maniacs and it's terrible. So we'll find out. You want to say thank you for all the content and the help? Well, you are very welcome. I appreciate y'all for just being along for the ride. Like, if there aren't people watching and people coming by and supporting, then like there's no audience, right? You know. Great card for a sack deck. I have taken a break from Standard and Historic since Zendikar Rising came out. How has the format been since the betting? It's been pretty great, Naverja. I have to be honest. Like, if you go look at the top eights in say like or top 16s really is what I like to look at in stuff like MTG Melee, you'll see 5, 6 different decks. Sometimes some of the tier 2 and tier 3 decks slipping in there. So you can have top 16 sometimes that have like 7 different decks. You know, at bare minimum 5 different decks. A lot of times that's good because you've got like Dimir Rogues, you've got Mono White Aggro, you've got Gruul. There's some various control decks that are still popping up because you've seen Izzet Control and Dimir Control being things. Sometimes a mill deck will slip in there. That's a thing you'll see going on. Mono Red is still active, so that'll still occasionally sneak in. But yeah, pretty much whatever different type of deck you want to play, there's something out there. So it's not a bad time. But you know, that's the best we could hope for, right? That's what at the end of a season, especially a long season like this, because the winter seasons are always longer. Well, I guess the fall seasons. Technically, we're in the winter seasons for US. That's how we terminize it because Wizards is a US company. But you know, the fourth quarter, we'll say, is usually the longest one as far as Magic goes. So by the time you get to the end of the season, the fact that you still have a competing group of 5 or 6 tier 1 decks or considered top tier decks, that's actually a really good thing. Like it would be hard to be much different. So that's the best you could hope for, really, at the end of this type of season. Uh Thank you for all the answers. I started replaying the game a month ago and found your channel, and now I'm back for more. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad it's helpful. Like, I hope that being able to talk through the plays and explain cards and whatever really is something that is helpful to people, but I hope also other creators can do and really kind of help spread information, I think is really good. One of the things, and I've said this a couple times throughout the stream, like that's kind of the one frustrating thing is knowing that a lot of people don't watch the videos. People will get on, and again, I know this because two things. One, I can see the average view time. So if I see this many views and I see it's only this many minutes or whatever, like you can average out roughly what's going on with your content. But additionally, I'll see people make comments on the videos when I've said those things or addressed those things in the video. And it's just like, why are you not watching the video? Like, and a lot of times, to me, in my perspective, those feel like the ones that are kind of the tryhards, right? Oh, well, I'm just going to go get this deck because this deck looks sweet and I'm going to go crush some people. And then when they don't know how to play it or it doesn't function right, or they tell you cards they switch that you know make the deck worse, or even didn't listen to the end of the video and like, hey, if the metagame ends up this way, you should probably be playing these cards in these slots instead or whatever. You know, it's just like, could have made your job easier. Like, I'm literally doing this to make your life easier. Like, but you're choosing not to listen or follow the content. Like, I can't do anything with that. Like, so that's the tough part of being a content creator. Like, there's always going to be those knuckleheads that just want deck lists and they already think they're better and they understand stuff better. And, you know, all right, cool. My thing is, if I'm interested in a deck that, say, CGB or LVD or somebody else puts up, I'll still watch at least half the video. Like, just to go through and say, okay, well, okay, they're playing against this type of deck I run into a lot. Let me watch this game. Oh, this spot looks kind of interesting. Let me see how they work their way through this or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I understand it a little better, especially if it's like I've been thinking about making and I have a different spin on it, I'm like, oh, well, let me see what they did to see if their way makes more sense. I'm like, okay, I could see where they're going. All right, cool. And then whatever. Like, it's not even about just the results. That's the other thing. Like, people will go to videos that are, this has a 90% win rate, or this has, this is undefeated, or whatever. Like, that doesn't mean it's going to pan out that way for you. A lot of that is luck based. I have literally had, and I tell people, y'all have watched some of my videos where I've gone 3-4, and I've been like, well, the deck's probably better than what it looked because I made these mistakes, and I also ran into like 3 of the bad matchups or whatever, blah blah blah, right? And others where I've gone like 5-1, and I've been like, I don't think it's as good as it played. Like, I did get lucky here, or I had a bad opponent, or blah blah blah, right? So there's context I try to give even among that, because whether a deck wins or loses is only a small part of the story. It's also possible that you see the deck, I play it, you see the matchups, you get to the end of the video, and you might have an idea that, like, you know what? I saw what happened here. I saw how PowrDragn played this way. What if I change these 2 cards, and because of my playstyle, I also want to do this thing? And then it turns up being a winning deck for you, right? That's a very possible thing. But you're now armed with that knowledge because you've watched the video, right? Other than just took the deck list and then we're just doing it from scratch. Like, honestly, think about it this way. The deck is like, the video itself is like a vehicle. It's like the Model T, right? And you've decided you want to make a car that's different. Well, without taking the history and the knowledge and understanding how people fix it and the problems it has and whatever, you're going to be making all the same mistakes that the Ford company did initially with the Model T, right? Because you're not taking all this history into consideration. You're trying to start from the same point that the viewer did, or the creator did. And by the end of the video, the creator's giving you more tools so you don't have to start from the same place. Especially now, I get it. If I put up like an hour and a half video, I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. You're not going to watch the whole hour and a half video. Well, some people will, but not many people. And that's the whole reason I got around to trying to fit my content between 25 and 35 minutes usually. So you have a very small window. So maybe you're chilling on your lunch break. You can pop it up while you're eating, get through the video, boom, right? I try to make it in a consumable format to still give you the maximum amount of information I can within that window. So I'm even already trying to make it easier for you, but I can't take you that last step. Like, I can get you there, but it's up to you to walk up the stairs, or down the stairs, depending on how you want to look at it. Let's see. If I see a deck I like, I watch all of the video, then make the deck. Yeah, that's the best plan, Billy. Like I said, I do a lot of the same. When are you gonna do a viewer deck review stream? Been missing those. I'm probably not going to be doing another one for a little while. Partly because, one, I still have a lot of decks I got to get through of my own, and it would do me no good to take all the viewer decks and have them on top of my queue of other things I still need to play. Like, literally, I'm going to have over 20 decks that I still need to do gameplay videos of. That's over 2 weeks of content, right? You know what I mean? So I would be almost 3 weeks. Actually, it is 3 weeks of content, actually. So I would be 3 weeks in, and then still have, if I did them weekly, I would still have another 3 weeks of decks from viewers that I would have to stash somewhere and sit on, and then find a way to spend time on those while cleaning up these other. It would just be too much. So I just can't right now. The other thing is, some stuff may be coming up that I can't talk about yet, but I'll let y'all know as soon as I can. That is going to adjust my schedule on some things, and I'm still going to be streaming. Don't worry, videos still going to be coming out. Nothing like that. But just the way I have to structure my time is going to be a little bit different. So even if I do them, I may not be able to do one on YouTube anymore to fit that in. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to still try to do some stuff and make it work. But more importantly, I'm probably going to make it a thing where I just have stuff mostly living on the Discord when I'm ready, because it's going to be easy to just consolidate everything into one thread or one page. Or I may just make the document available and turn it off and on when it's open for decks or not. It's probably just going to be something easier. Partly because I've also said before, one of the things I was running into is some people being very hurt if I didn't end up using their list after I, like, on stream, I'm like, cool, this looks like a neat idea, I'll set it aside. But then I ultimately can't get it to even a remotely winning format. So I'm just like, cool, I'm not going to put it into a video, right? And then some people are like anticipating it for a week or two, and then like they see that I no longer have it. I just deleted it, right? It's not a thing. Or some people, and even in the live streams, like being upset, they're like, I don't like a certain deck style or whatever. And it's just like, it's all personal. Like I have to still be putting time in to build the deck list and whatnot. And that's kind of a tough thing. So I'm also trying to find a way to do it that minimizes the hurt for a lot of people, because it's supposed to be a rewarding thing for viewers. It's not to be a thing that, you feel insulted or whatever. That's totally not the intent of the project. So that's one of those things. Let's see. Gonna get caught up here. A couple of messages came in. That's usually how I build my decks. I build the deck, test a couple of rounds, look up what other people have done, rinse and repeat. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, Meryl. I mean, I tell people that all the time, especially if you have limited time to play games. If you're able to even just listen to the games being played, especially, and that's the other thing too. The people, other than just educating folks and giving insight to the gameplay, one of the reasons I speak through my things is because I also have done other jobs where I understand people absorb content differently. Some are very visual, some like reading it, some like hearing it. Unfortunately, right now I don't have an outlet that makes sense for me to do a written portion, so I at least try to take in the audio portion and the video portion as best I can. And that allows people, so maybe you shouldn't be watching YouTube while you're driving, but maybe you're listening to it, right? Maybe you're in a situation where you're cleaning or you're working on something in your office or whatever, and you can still be listening to the video while it's up on your computer, right? So you can still get the gist of everything that's going on and still consume it that way. So there's a few different reasons that it makes a lot of sense. But to your point, I agree that if people already have done the work, go watch it, right? You might be like, there's times I've been like, okay, this deck's, I can tell is a winning deck. I've seen some people have decent results with it, but I'm obviously doing something wrong, so I'm struggling with this, and I'm not getting the same result. What's up? And then I'll go watch a couple of people and be like, oh, that makes sense. In those scenarios, I should probably be holding onto this card a turn longer, or maybe I should be killing this card sooner because it's causing these problems for me. And like, so even just seeing other people do that, it kind of gives you a base to say like, okay, I see what I'm doing wrong. Let me implement these strategies, and that's actually going to help me out. Let's see. Will I be covering sealed deck builds for pre-release by any chance? No. I just can just say outright, I've done nothing with limited play in. I literally, when they drafted, when draft went live, or for human drafts, that was the last time I drafted, I think. So I probably have no input there. Plus, the majority of people aren't doing pre-releases. A lot of places just aren't running pre-release events. Wizards still isn't doing official. You can take home pre-release, like you can go to your local store, get a pre-release kit. If you and a couple friends want to play at your house or something, sure. But there's no official pre-release events right now that are happening. So there's even less benefit for the content. And honestly, I don't think that's my specialty. I think I could give information that could be helpful, but I don't know if, like, there's just a lot of other people that just do it better. There's some people that focus on just limited play, and their content's probably just going to be more useful to you. I mean, I love that you want to come get your content from me, but I also know where, like, my expertise lies, and it's not particularly right now in limited play because I've played so little of it. So, I mean, could I figure it out and probably give you something that's reasonable and better than what you probably have right now as a zero basis? Like, sure. But again, it's a tough thing because I'm spending so much time on all these other decks and producing the gameplay content that, like, I have to choose not to do something. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where I'm making that decision. Also have a lot of viewers. I think a lot of viewers base their opinion on a way too low number of games for a sample size. Oh, that's totally true. And I've even brought that up in my videos, that even when I've won, I've been like, yeah, but remember, we only played like 5 games because the games took a long time or whatever, and blah blah blah. Like, yeah, like you're only looking at a snippet in time of a lot of those decks, right? So it's hard to tell. And again, there's, not going to name content creators or whatever, but there's some that are trying to build themselves up as being the place to get the best decks and whatever. So there's probably some choice editing or whatever going on as well to make things look better than they are. And, And I've even had some where I put up like what was the most recent one? The Jund Reanimator deck, right? I chose that's one of the few times I did do a hard edit because the games I played were all ridiculously long. You know, they were well, I say all, several were very long. So I was like, okay, well, let me just pick these games, show you how the deck works, but tell you outright that, like, hey, I do not recommend building this to try to ladder with. I do not, this is a fun deck. I don't think it's a good deck. You'll probably have a bunch of fun in the open play queues if you just want to do some interesting things. You know, like, I'm not trying to build it up and tell you that, like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, right? I'm not selling you on that. I'm selling this is a fun, creative deck. It does a neat thing, but not something I would go just toss into a ladder situation. So I'll be open and transparent about that on the times where it happens. I can't say that every content creator is. You know, so that also can skew people's opinions. Because here's the thing. Again, here's the way I feel about it. Like, if I were to tell you, let's say every deck I built for the first 2 weeks, I come back and be like, oh man, this deck has an 80% win percentage. This deck has a 70% win. This deck has a 90% win percent, right? Well, if every deck I'm building, let's say through 3 weeks, because I'll have enough to fill 3 weeks of content, right? Over 21 days, every single deck has that high of a win percentage. Well, one, why are not my decks all the ones you only run into on ladder? But then also, at some point, don't those decks beat my other decks, and then the other decks don't have that win percentage anymore, or whatever, right? Like, not everything I put up that exists can be a ridiculously high win percentage. Like, that just mathematically doesn't make sense, right? Like, it just doesn't. The truth is, the majority of even good decks are going to be in like the 55% range. That's a good win percentage for a deck, 55 to 60%. Once it gets above 60, people start questioning, is it too good for the format, or are there cards that need to be banned? Then once you get over 65% consistently, then it's like, okay, we probably need to look at banning something in this deck, right? So, yeah, like, I don't know. But again, it's just a matter of how we choose to build our content. Like, I try to be fairly transparent with myself. I try to tell y'all, you know, what's going on, what my actual opinions are, regardless of win or loss in a video, and that's just how I treat it. Just a different thing, you know. Let's see. Do you use Scryfall for deck building? They always have. Scryfall is actually really. I used Scryfall for searching for cards. If I'm like looking for certain things, like even now for doing this, I'm using Scryfall because if somebody mentions a thing, I can bring up all cards of a certain type or whatever just really quickly, and that helps for discussion or deck building. But for storing my decks and, you know, tweaking them or whatever, once I have all the cards I want, I just do that in AetherHub. So I actually use Scryfall to search for things by like keywords and different things or whatever. Like, let's say I'm building a like the dwarf deck. I just want to see all the dwarves from standard or whatever. Boom, cool. I can check those there and it's quick and it pops up very quickly. But I'll also have a window open for AetherHub, and then as I see cards I want, I'll just start typing them in or whatever. And then once I have the selection of cards, then I just work solely in AetherHub. But that's just the fastest way for me. I just keep two windows open and do that. Like I said, for me, the deck building in Scryfall just doesn't work cleanly for how I like to build decks. I like AetherHub as far as the actual deck building portion because I can just quick plus minus move stuff in, take stuff out, whatever. And that's just like how my mind works while I'm deck building. So it's a lot easier for me to just move numbers very quickly back and forth, and it's very fluid and fast for that. I struggle with that in Scryfall. I know some people do use it. Like Yeoman5 builds a bunch of decks and he uses Scryfall, but I've tried using it even within the last like 6 months, and it just didn't work out cleanly for me. Just the way you have to add and delete things or whatever, and like when I see a new card I want to put in, it's just it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know if I say it wasn't intuitive because once you figure it out, it kind of is. But I guess for my style of deck building, it just wasn't clean and intuitive. So I do my researching, I guess if you want to call it, in Scryfall to find cards I want. But I do my actual deck building in AetherHub because it's just cleaner and faster. Because once I have the cards, there's a lot of like adjusting numbers, or after I get to a certain point, I'm like, well, now I have room for this other thing. Let me put that in, and And it's just really easy for me to do that. And then after that, I can link the YouTube video where I'm talking about or playing those decks. So I can keep everything in kind of one hub and keep it all connected, which is really nice. I'm making a more budget version of your clerics. I have no Kaldheim cards, but the replacements are nice. Well, none of us have Kaldheim cards, so welcome to the club. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, though. If you already have an existing version of the deck, I'm at least putting this out there so you have some starting point for ideas for as you're working to build up your wild cards or open packs or whatever, you kind of know some things you can look for. Yes, New Zealand, y'all are lucky. Y'all do get to pre-release, and that is a nice thing. Yeah, Billy, I guess keeping it real is one way to look at it. I love your deck list for the dwarves, and I like the addition of Toralf, but is there an and I like the addition of Toralf, but is there a different mono red or Rakdos aggro deck with Toralf that can be good? Did I put Toralf in my dwarf deck? I don't remember. Did I? Now you have me questioning myself. Maybe I did. I built a lot of decks. No, Toralf is not in that list. Okay, good. I'm not crazy. No, Toralf isn't in that list. Why would I want Toralf in that list? Doesn't Toralf say, well, here, let me bring it up on this page. Like, doesn't Toralf say non-combat damage? I'm pretty sure that's correct. No, I know what the card is. Yeah, it says non-combat damage. So I probably wouldn't play that. Because all your damage is mostly going to be, like, Toralf plus Terror of the Peaks, awesome, right? But really, the deck has almost no chance to use the backside of the card, which is the artifact that lets you get +3 if you're legendary. So that doesn't really work there. Yeah, it's not really the card you're looking for in that list. And you can't search for it. So that's probably another reason, because you can go get artifacts and dragons. So yeah. I like the card though. Don't get me wrong. I like Toralf in the gods list we put together today. I think the gods list looks like a lot of fun, y'all. Like, that's one I am totally looking forward to playing. Like, it looks like a pile of fun. Like, I'm actually super giddy to get to play that one. It mostly because it's weird that you're playing so many different colors and different things, but like you can make so much mana and just do so many like big things. But yeah, Rakdos aggro, again, probably not playing Toralf because you're not doing a lot of non-combat damage. That's not with that deck. Now, Toralf plus something fun like Shatterskull Pass. That's a cool thing, right? Because if you can get up to where you're making it 6, and you're like blast 2 things, and the overage goes to your opponent, or whatever, that's pretty awesome. Or take out other creatures, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a ton of homes for Toralf right now. I want there to be more. And again, like, it does combo well with Terror of the Peaks. I dig that part. But I don't know. It's a neat card overall. I mean, it is a 4-mana 5/4 that tramples that has an upside, so there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, lots of ideas still possible out there for this card. So I'm not hating on it at all. I just don't think it necessarily goes in a lot of the aggro decks. If it was just damage in general, absolutely. The card might be nuts, honestly, if that were the case, because it has trample. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of Rakdos decks that are going to play this. Mostly because I'm thinking, like, you're playing Rakdos because a lot of your removal is going to be spot removal. Right? You're going to be playing Blood Chief's Thirst, Eliminate, Heartless Act, whatever, right? Murderous Riders, those type of things. So Toralf doesn't really work well with those. You will be playing some number of maybe Scorching Dragonfire, Bonecrusher Giant. You know, those produce some damage, but not a lot, right? You might get an extra ping or 2 off of it. So that'd be like the most you're going to get from Toralf. So it's probably not the place you're looking to build. And those aren't particularly playing a lot of legendary things either. So you wouldn't be getting the backside usage either. So, like, I don't know if there's a lot. I do have a couple of Rakdos lists I'm working on, one being a Berserker list, but that's not going to play Toralf because again, a lot of the damage is going to be creature based damage. So I'm definitely not going to be going that route. Uh, but yeah, I do think Toralf, if you're playing enough burn stuff, like now, we can go back to that burn list I made a couple, I guess it's been like 6 weeks ago or whatever. The mono red burn list. We can go back and look at that. And that probably wants to play Toralf. Because then it's like, okay, if I'm playing Toralf and, just any type of burn, it's like, okay, cool, I killed your creature and you take one. Or I killed this creature and I get to kill that creature. Like, then we're talking about doing something. So I will be coming back and revisiting that at some point. But don't know. Do I think there'll be more 3-color lists due to Wizards adding the rest of the pathways into Standard? I don't know if that's going to be the main reason, but they will help. But I think it's mostly still going to come down to the decks themselves, because pathways give you access to a color, a third color, but they don't always make that third color. And I think that is a big distinction, right? When we were Hey, there we go. Are we back? Weird. It just started working again. I don't know what happened there. I literally don't know. I was checking everything and I just looked up and it was working. That is such a weird scenario. Yeah, because I'm checking all my data on my side and it's still showing like 0 drop frames. So I'm like, and my bit rate's been consistent the whole time. So I'm like, what happened? I don't know what happened there. That's weird. Okay, well, we're up and running again. Here we are. We are back. Okay. Forgot where I was going with all that, but let me back up here in the conversation so I can get us back on track. I don't know, but I see the comment on Architect. Man, that site is too flashy for its own good. Architect to me is like when I look at the new wave of like concept cars and I'm like, man, that looks really cool, but this really just looks neat. It doesn't do anything to make it better for my life to drive. Right? You know what I mean? Like it just looks really neat. So I don't know. It has way more stuff. Ebbs and counters never worked for me. Keep getting mana screwed. Never had green or black at the same time. And that could be the thing there, Hoodrat, from what we were talking about, is when you don't have lands that are true dual lands or multi-lands, it's not like you just get the option to cast whatever you want whenever you want, right? You do have to pick and choose what's the best thing to have at that point. And what you need at that point may not be later. Because, you might be looking at your hand and saying, okay, well, I need green white and I need green black. So let me go ahead and choose these sides on my pathways or whatever for the first 3 turns. And then the next thing you draw, you're like, oh crap, I want to cast this like questing beast and I need double green, but I only have this plains left in hand or whatever. And it's just like, like now what? Right. But if those were true multi-lands, great. You could cast your questing beast next turn and not care. Right. And I think that's the thing. Like, is it still worth doing? Absolutely. It's the resources we have available. So definitely you play your 3 different pathways and go for it. But there will be times that you're still going to be a turn slower or whatever, waiting for the mana to set up the way you want. And there's just not a lot you're going to be able to do about it. I think that's just part of it. There's an Abzan list that your friend runs that's mid-range with lots of removal and like 7 flip land removal. Yeah, there were some builds and people tried that early on, and I think that's still viable. I think it's something you can definitely still do. Not sure. The problem is you do end up with a lot of situations where you're going to need some of those as actual lands, and it's going to be kind of slow. But I don't know. And there's a point, too, where you just overload on removal, right? And it's just, okay, then what, right? How many win conditions do you have? Because then it's like you spend all your time moving their stuff, but like they're just sitting on their one thing that gets rid of like a planeswalker or their one thing that gets rid of a creature. Like, how are you going to close the game if you've played all that removal, right? It's kind of my other question. But there's a lot of ways to build Magic decks right now. I will say, like, because the cards are all doing so many crazy, weird things now, there's a lot of ways to win. I mean, even with Izzet, when we finally got to an Izzet list that I felt good about, it looked very different from all the other Izzet lists everyone's been trying to build, myself included. So maybe we have to think outside the box to make some things work. Golgari flip lands will make things easier, I guess. Hopefully, that'd be the plan. I don't know. Like, I would like to think so. It'll at least be easier. I think is the definitive statement. It will be easier. It just still won't be always convenient or perfect, right? But it's just what we have, so you just got to use it. And not a lot you can really do or say about that. It's just the way things are, and it's the hand we've been dealt. So we'll find something to do with it. Um, yeah, I think we've covered a lot of stuff though for this set. What are your thoughts on getting Commander on MTGA and 4-player mode? Not anytime soon. The platform just not built for it. Like, they would have to build an entirely different interface, like layout, for it to even work. Like the current setup, like the current setup just won't work. I mean, it's just you have to have so much real estate to put 4 things onto a battlefield, right? You're trying to put 4 battlefields onto one screen. And then you can't do it without having it on mobile because that's coming out at the end of the month. Or actually not even in the month, in what, 5 days or whatever, right? It's 4 days. So we know people are going to want to play that. So you can't be like, "Oh, I can only play Commander on my PC or on a tablet. I can't play it on my phone." So like they'd have to find a way to make it work there too. So like I just don't know. I wouldn't expect to see it anytime soon. I wouldn't. And truthfully, because Spell Table exists and Wizards own Spell Table, we have an outlet. So it's probably just going to be Spell Table for the time being if you want to play online. As far as like also really the other thing is too, it would still just be some version of Brawl for the most part anyway. I mean, yeah, you'd be 100 cards and whatever, but you just don't have the same cards available, right? Just not the card pool. So I would see as we get to where maybe we start adding at least a card pool as big as Pioneer, then maybe we at least consider it because then you start having enough cards to have enough diversity to say, like, okay, maybe we can build some different commandery type decks and turn it into a thing. And then maybe it becomes time to start putting resources into that. But it's going to take so long to program all of those cards with all of the keywords and the abilities and whatever that I mean, at even with them employing outside studios, which they said they've done, um, I think you're going to be not going to be looking at that for man. Even the older, like even Pioneer, just as a 60 card format coming to Arena is probably still a year away at best, you know. And Modern is probably for even further away, and somewhere in between is probably when you can even start talking about a commander option. So I think it's still a ways off. Yeah, I agree, Billy. Just a lot of different decks that can do a lot of different things right now. What are your thoughts all about Magic on mobile? Haven't played it, so I can't tell you. Some people apparently act like it's the end of the world and it's going to be apparently the awesome last bastion that they've wanted forever. If you listen to them talk about it, um, I feel like for a large percentage of the players, we're not doing again pandemic related to a lot of issues. In some places going back into lockdown, we're not doing a lot of things where we even need to be mobile with Arena right now. As far as like not taking a lot of road trips, we're not flying a bunch. A lot of people are still working from home. I mean, obviously not everybody, but a percentage of people aren't even commuting. So it's like, how many people really need mobile? Like, I mean, I guess if I want to play from my couch instead of being in my office in front of my computer, like maybe. Um, but yeah, until I play with it, I can't really speak about it. I heard they made some adjustments to make it work better on mobile. So the layout's slightly different and how you interact with a couple of cards. Because obviously it's touch and you're not moving a cursor. So that's a thing. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like a good thing for us to have. I don't think, yeah, there's not much to say about it till I play with it. I may do a review of it. Um, Man, I don't even know. It's possible I could get one up next weekend if I can get it downloaded and mess around with it. I do have an app that lets me like stream to my computer, so I'd be able to record it and talk about it. So that might be a thing I do. Imagine ETB animations of Ur-Dragon or Progenitus. Well, yeah, just right now, we can't do any of that right now. It'd be crazy, Nick. Like, we're just in a weird spot. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff coming, a lot of good stuff, a lot of fun stuff. I hopefully it shakes up the format. We'll see. You know, I don't really know about that. What about Brawl multiplayer? Because Brawl now sucks. I mean, that's the same thing as Commander multiplayer. It's not the format itself. It's the layout of 4 battlefields of information that all 4 people have to be able to see at all times or access at all times easily in some way. That's the issue. It's not even if you took away the idea it's Commander, just the fact that you would need 4 battlefields at the same time. Like even if we were just like multiplayer standard, like we would still need to be able to see 4 sets of cards at all times. Like I don't right now Arena can't do that. It's not built for that. And again, I don't think there's necessarily a rush because knowing that most of the Commander players aren't going to be Brawl fans in particular. Some play it because it's the option that's available. But realistically, they want to play with more cards. So until we get, or at least start talking about getting Pioneer level cards available, so there's at least a few years worth of sets of Magic to build with, I don't think it's even going to be a real discussion. Being honest, I doubt they'll ever put more than 1v1 on MTG Arena, or if they do, it won't make it available on mobile for sure. I don't know if they will or won't. It's hard to say. I think there's a point in time where that could be a discussion, but right now, I think they're better just spending their resources making it better for 1v1. And most of the Commander players that play, you're playing because you can play paper Commander. And we have Spell Table for that right now. I mean, plus you have other logistics that have to figure out anyway. Like, do you make it to where people can get more older cards? If so, how do you get them? Do you have more things available in the store people can spend gold on? Do you get to choose the type of packs you're going to open to try to increase the odds you can find other things? Like, there's so many logistics that even beyond just making the playfield work, the accessibility thing becomes a question. And like, there's so much. There's so much. I think for the people that are asking for it, I just feel like they haven't thought about the business implications and the practicality of it. And that part of the discussion holds it up more than just like, well, you can spend X amount of money and get your programmers to make a thing where we could do it. Like, in theory, yes, but there's a lot of other questions we have to ask even after we decide we can make the structure and the battlefield and the UI work, right? Like we have to have other things in place to even make that reasonable. So that's all. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I think it can happen, but it's down the road a bit. I don't think we're even close. Even for, like I said, even for just Pioneer level accessibility, I think we're still more than a year away. So somewhere beyond that is where you can even start having a real Commander discussion. And again, I don't even know if the average Commander player wants to be playing Commander on digital because they've already invested their time and money getting their foils and their altered cards and blah blah and whatever. And it's a different community that may just be entrenched in paper. So something like Spell Table is their outlet to play with people that aren't near them. You know, I don't know. Again, that's other questions we got to ask, right? Maybe there's surveys that need to be done or whatever. But there's a lot of questions to be had around Commander on Arena or mobile formats. It just may not be a thing that makes sense realistically. Even though a handful of vocal people may want it, in the end, it just may not be a thing that's worth spending the resources on. Catch you on Twitch on your Monday or Tuesday stream. Well, see you later, Nick. Thanks for stopping. But yeah, I think that's going to do it, everybody. We're coming into about beyond the 2-hour point. So this was actually pretty nice. It was fun getting to talk to everybody, talk about different ideas, talk about Kaldheim and things we can do with it. Like I said, there's some news coming up soon I'm going to be able to tell everybody about, hopefully by the end of this week. I will get the 10K by the once shirts will be in the merchandise store. I'm going to make them very cheap, so anybody who wants one to celebrate the 10K subscribers, that's going to be a thing. Yeah, and then I'm going to have a bunch more decks coming. I've got stuff already queued up for tomorrow. I have a bunch of stuff coming on Tuesday and on Wednesday, and I think I have a couple I'm going to finish off on Thursday. So you're going to get stuff every day. We're going to have over 20 decks available for Kaldheim. So hopefully, as y'all load up that update on Thursday and crack your packs or whatever, there will be something that y'all can build one way or the other. Because I want y'all to at least be able to have a reasonable starting point for where things go. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, is that y'all can at least from the beginning be able to build what you need to build, or at least have an idea so you feel confident spending your resources, whether that's cash or gems or gold or whatever it is you're going to be spending, trading cards into your local store or whatever to get the cards you want, right? That way you feel confident with your early decisions. Or maybe you don't even know what you want to build, you're just coming back. Maybe we'll have a deck for you or something you can play that makes sense. You know, whatever it is, hopefully there's something for you when we're all said and done, when there's over 20 decks. You are very welcome. I'm just glad that y'all will find everything I'm doing useful. But as usual, everybody, I want to say, wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And for a little longer, you know, while we're all trying to get vaccinated and everything, please remember to wash your hands, wear your mask, stay away from other humans, so we can all get back to gaming and gathering sooner rather than later. Don't forget to check us out on Twitch. Go join our Discord. The links are in the description below. Lots of good stuff going on there. May have some announcements coming in the Discord soon as well. So please have a good time. Be cool to one another. We will catch you in the next video.